We're starting with a poll. I'm not going to out people and ask who's vegetarian. Oh, can I not do this? Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to stand here then. I'm not going to out people who's vegetarian, who's vegan, who's not. I'm going to assume most of you are. And for those of you who are vegan, we're going to start with how do you feel about being vegan? And you're going to have 5 options. They're going to go from the worst to the best. You can only vote once. So who here is vegan and feels really bad about it? And raise your hand. Okay, nobody raised their hand. Some people in the front are looking, so I think they're going to find you afterwards if you raise your hand for really bad. Who feels kind of bad about being vegan? Okay, nobody. Neutral. Neutral. I can take it or leave it. I'm vegan. No, okay. Pretty awesome. I feel pretty awesome about being vegan. Okay. A fair number of people feel pretty awesome. Well, actually, just like half a dozen feel pretty awesome. Okay, and then finally, who feels totally flippin' awesome about being vegan? Of course we feel totally flippin' awesome about being vegan, right? Because veganism feels totally flipping awesome. Woo, vegan! And the point of strategies for promoting vegan eating is that promoting vegan eating feels even more totally flippin' awesome. We feel totally flippin' awesome about being vegan because we're saving animals like Baba Ganoush here and Julia here, right? Every single time we sit down to eat, we're choosing compassion and mercy over cruelty and misery. We are afflicting the comfortable, we are comforting the afflicted. We're living our values 3 times a day by being vegan, and that feels awesome. And we're saving about 35 land animals and certainly more than 100 sea animals. Also totally flipping awesome. But the point of this panel is the power of vegan advocacy. Because if you have one effective conversation with somebody as a vegan, and you convince them to become a vegan too, or as Nick was saying, even convince them to, not eat chicken, you're going to save 30-something animals just by convincing them not to eat chicken. You're going to save 130 animals by convincing them not to eat chicken and fish. In that moment, boom, your entire life as a vegan, you just doubled it in terms of the number of animals that you've saved. So you leaflet, boom. One person adopts a vegan diet, you've doubled your lifetime efficacy as a vegan. One really good conversation, somebody sees a bumper sticker and it prompts them to go online and find out about the issue and they go vegan, boom! So each and every one of us has the power not just to feel totally flippin' awesome about being vegan, but to convert massive numbers of additional people. I'm going to talk about 3 tactics that I hope everybody in this room will implement. And then I'm going to talk about I'm going to give you 3 reflections for daily advocacy. The top 3 tactics. The first, well, who here is in college? Okay, if you're in college, please write down my email address and email me, bruce@farmsanctuary.org, and I will send you this guide that Nick and I worked on, Compassionate Campus, the college guide to animal advocacy. And it has the 3 things I'm going to talk about in it, but it has 7 other things in it. Everybody on a campus has a captive audience, and you should be, well, there's a lot of really good stuff for you to do. The first tactic is 3 forms of effortless advocacy. And the first one is to wear animal rights t-shirts. This is my favorite t-shirt. It says, "Ask me why I'm vegetarian." There's a farm sanctuary version, a mercy for animals version, and a compassion over killing version. But there are also lots of other really happy vegetarian, tons of really cool t-shirts. If you currently run around in, a Seattle Seahawks, or an LA Lakers, or an I'm with Stupid, take those shirts to the Goodwill, rush out here after this talk, and replace them with animal rights t-shirts, because the Lakers don't need your advocacy, Abercrombie & Fitch doesn't need your advocacy, Stupid doesn't need your advocacy. But you're wearing a shirt like this and people will ask, you will engage in conversations, you will, as the good activist that you are, have in your backpack vegetarian literature from one of the organizations up here or another organization that has phenomenal vegetarian literature. You'll hand the literature to the person, you'll engage in an effective conversation with them. And just by wearing a t-shirt, you will save thousands of animals. Second one is, like Erica does, and Michael does not, have a vegetarian bumper sticker both on your car. Okay. On your car and on your laptop. If you're like me and you live in coffee shops, also an effective way to raise awareness every time you go out. And then finally, this wonderful sidecar magnet from Mercy for Animals. Why love one but eat the other, along with my lovely wife there, smiling at all of you. Why love one but eat the other? We have that on both sides of our car. And people just like stare at it. And it makes the point succinctly. And everywhere we go, it's a little message of compassion. So, effortless advocacy. Number 2, a little bit more effort advocacy. I think Kurt Albright is in the room. Wave, Kurt. Woohoo, Kurt! Phenomenal Humane League activist from Charlotte. There he is passing out literature. And the Humane League labs crunched the numbers, and they found out that 3 leaflets results in 1 slight reducer of animal products. 12 leaflets results in 1 significant reducer of chicken consumption. Remember, every time somebody chooses not to get a bucket of chicken, that's like 3 or 4 animals saved in that moment. 30 leaflets gets you 1 vegetarian. So I can't pass out 1,500 leaflets in 90 minutes. Michael is like the Uber leafleter, apparently.
I only leaflet Warped Tour, so.
Okay. But you can give out, at an awful lot of different places in most cities, you can give out 200 to 300 leaflets in an hour. My favorite leafleting program is the Adopt a College program that Vegan Outreach runs. And who here has a college or a university within like 5 miles of you? Yeah, if you didn't raise your hand, you just don't know that there's a college or university within about 5 miles of you. So Adopt a College is a really phenomenal program that I hope many of you will go there, find the nearest college or university, and get involved in passing out leaflets to them. The third one is PETA's Vegetarian Starter Kit Stand project, which my wife and I have about 40 of the stands on the right in Washington, D.C., and every weekend we drive, she calls it leafleting for old people. Every weekend we drive around D.C. and refill the stands, and last weekend we put out 1,200 vegetarian starter kits, so in 3.5 hours, 1,200 kits. 2 things I really like about the program. One thing is everybody who gets a kit wants one. So the reason the vegan leafleting would be a lot higher if there weren't a fair number of people who didn't even read the leaflet. But with vegetarian starter kits, 100% of people who get the vegetarian starter kit want the vegetarian starter kit. And 2, everywhere you go in DC, you see these boxes with celebrities' faces on them talking about vegetarianism or veganism. So even the people who don't take one, it's little flashes of advertising for compassion. So the program works, you buy the kit, you buy the stand, PETA will work with you to place it, and they will send you unlimited free vegetarian starter kit stands. So you can find out about that at the PETA table, but also something everybody in here can do. Now I want to give you offer 3 tips for interacting with non-vegans, so to be as effective as we possibly can be in our lives. And the thing to remember is, every interaction you have with somebody is an opportunity to double your efficacy as an advocate, but the difference between that interaction going well and not going well is the difference between alleviating a lot of suffering and not alleviating a lot of suffering. So who here has had somebody say to you, as a vegan, where do you get your protein? All right, keep your hand up if somebody has said something along the lines of, but plants feel pain. What about the screaming broccoli? Animals eat one another in the wild. We're carnivores, loser. Or some variant on it. I like meat, right? I like meat, yeah, of course. So we owe it to animals to have practiced responses to all of these questions. We're letting them down if we don't have practiced responses to all of these questions. I guarantee everybody who is a professional realtor, everybody who is in sales professionally, everybody who is in business has read these 3 books, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Steve Covey, and Getting Things Done by David Allen. Seems to me as animal advocates, we should read these books too, as well as other books, and implement the practices that they recommend, so that we can be as effective as animal advocates as business people and salespeople are at selling us, widgets and things we don't need. Nick and I have attempted to distill an awful lot of the lessons from these books and sort of translate them into animal advocacy, and I highly recommend his book, Change of Heart, And Matt Ball and I wrote the Animal Activist Handbook. The Animal Activist Handbook talks about what Matt and I think are the most effective tactics for advocacy, as well as the most effective ways that we can interact in the world. Peter Singer says very nicely about it. Well, you can read that. But the two things that I'm going to talk about now, we elaborate on the book, and we go into about a dozen more. So the first thing I want to talk about is two variations on the purity versus efficacy. I ordered a beer at the bar a couple of days ago, and the bartender said to me, well, are you vegan? And I said, yes. And she said, well, the beers you can have are. And she told me what beers I can have as a vegan. And so I said, well, what's the problem? Why are some beers vegan and some beers not vegan? So she explained to me, not entirely articulately, not being a vegan, why some beers are vegan and some beers aren't vegan. And this strikes me as counterproductive to helping animals, the idea that some beers are vegan and some beers are not vegan. Because if beer is not vegan because it's filtered through fish bladders, because there's some degree of complicity in animal suffering in the beer, then nothing is vegan. Who here eats exclusively organic food? Usually there are a couple, okay, there are a couple people who eat exclusively organic food. Animal fertilizer is used in organic food. So there is complicity in organic food with animal agriculture and animal slaughter. All of those animals are still slaughtered. So the rest of you, though, are complicit in pesticides and herbicide, the side means kill, and animal fertilizer. So kudos to the people who eat exclusively organic food for a little bit less suffering. But my point is that veganism isn't about personal purity. It's not about not supporting any animal suffering. Unless we kill ourselves, that's not where we are. And when we tell people, since what I said at the beginning is each person that we convert doubles our efficacy as a vegan, if we're doing things that make veganism seem like a cult, or that make it seem absolutely impossible, in order to be one modicum more personally pure, we're making veganism seem impossible to people who might otherwise be influenceable. But it's also on the beer thing just not true. 100% of beer creates this grain sludge, which is fed to farm animals, which is a lot more complicit than the fish bladders. But every product has a story like this. So veganism isn't about purity, it's about doing the best we can to lessen as much suffering as possible. And a part of that is thinking strategically about how we can influence people in a positive way. The second thing is eating with meat eaters. Again, purity versus efficacy. I've been vegan for 27 years. For about the first 5 or 6 years of my veganism, I refused to eat with meat eaters. And I saw this as a way of saying to them, you are moral reprobates. And I felt good about that. And the thing about a lot of the strategies that Matt and I talk about in the Animal Activist Handbook is that they're counterintuitive. But the question we need to ask is not what's the right thing to do, but if we were the animals involved, what would we want our advocates to be doing? So if somebody plops a turkey down on the table, it's a perfectly reasonable and rational thing for any one of us to take the table and flip it! And like Jesus with the Pharisees, you brood of vipers! You animal killers! And we've seen the videos, and we know that's a reasonable response. But they're gonna think you're nuts. And it's not what the animals want of us. So if you do a Google images search for eating together, you'll see like 9 gazillion images. This is like one of the first 3 of eating together. This is, Nick was talking about the 4 barriers, and they all have to do, they're things like social stuff, social, taste, and other things that have to do with making it easy. If you're sitting off in a corner, if you're going to cry or scream or whatever, sit off in a corner, but if you can sit with people, it's the perfect opportunity to address the protein question, to bring phenomenal vegan food and serve it to people and show them how tasty vegan food can be, to have a conversation with them about how animals suffer. It's a real lost opportunity, and it says that veganism is impossible. You can't even, eat with these people. And now my wife and I go to all our Minnesota hunting, fishing, fur-wearing relatives, And we go and we bring phenomenal vegan food, and they're nice and they eat it, but also 4 of my cousins, all of whom have hunting, fishing fathers, have gone vegan. And I guarantee that would not have happened if, Alka and I had been sitting off in a corner, feeling judgmental. That's me. Thank you. All right. So
raise your hand if you like him better that way. No one? No. All right.
Who here, if you're stopped at a stoplight and there's a car in front of you and it's a Lexus, and the light turns green, who is going to wait longer to honk at that car if it's a Lexus as opposed to a VW Bug? Yeah, well, like 90% of you don't understand yourselves. Because that survey has been done again and again and again and again, and almost everybody waits longer to honk at the Lexus. People are like, VW Bug, get out of the way! Lexus, you must be important, I'm going to wait longer. And there is just psychological study after psychological study, miles long, that dictate that first impressions mean a tremendous amount, and that if you look like a Jesus wannabe, people are going to be less likely to listen to you than if you look like you want to draft another Bush for president.
For a Christian, you've really been ripping on Jesus a lot, Bruce. The table flipping and the beard.
This is my I want to be Jesus.
No, I'm just surprised how much you're ripping on him now, though. How much you don't want to be like Jesus. For a Christian, I'm just surprised.
Oh, Michael. And who's this? Unfortunately for all of us, Erica has always been her same beautiful self. But looksism is an ism. Looksism sucks. But again, if you run it through the prism of how can I be as effective as possible for animals who are suffering so miserably, it probably doesn't suck as much to give into that instinct in the vast majority of people if it means we can save an awful lot more animals. The last thing I want to say, and it's the most important thing, and it's what all of us have been talking about, is that she is going to be in that crate every single day until she dies. The animals on factory farms, the animals in slaughterhouses, they never get a break. Their suffering is unmitigated. It's beyond most of our worst imaginings, and we can all do something about it. We should all be doing at the very least these things, lots more other things that we've been talking about. We have extraordinary power to help literally millions of animals. And remember, advocacy feels totally flippin' awesome. Let's get out there.